Hey, guess who's here?
Cardi.
Laura Stiles.
Oh, Laura Stiles.
I was going to get to Cardi last, kind of make it a bigger deal.
Oh.
Laura Stiles is here also.
Hey, guys.
How's Improper Etiquette doing, Laura?
Oh, yes. Improper Etiquette is so major right now. Thanks to you guys. You guys totally helped me out. So make sure I've inherited a bunch of Juan Epstein listeners. So subscribe to my podcast if you want to enjoy a bunch of like girls talking shit in extreme fuckery, and rate us. And you can email me improperetiquettepodcast@gmail.com.
Wow. Look at that. All that information. Mm-hmm. Guess who else is here?
More organized than our podcast. Yeah.
Kardinal Offishall is also here.
Oh, yes. And Dreddy.
Who?
Don't forget Dreddy.
Dreddy's here also, but he's just sitting in the corner really doing nothing.
Dreddy is a mage dude.
Dreddy's falling asleep in a corner.
We'll get to Dreddy in a little while.
Oh, there's going to be a Dreddy portion?
He's mage.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Confirmed mage or speculation?
No, confirmed.
Ciph, you put up a nearly political post yesterday on IG.
I did?
Yeah, you put up the white guy wearing the Black Lives Matter shirt.
Oh, yeah.
For you, that's stepping out there politically.
Nah, I just thought it was cool.
You liked it?
Yeah, I like that somebody, that's the only way things are going to change, if somebody like that
starts doing it.
Steps up, yeah. But T.I. put that up.
Yes.
I took that from T.I.
Yeah, no, I agree.
No, my favorite post is, did you see the Donald and Hillary, and he said something, and then the curb music starts, and it zooms in on her face.
There are three big videos from there are three big ones from the debate. There's the curb one.
Yeah.
There's the battle
one is dope too.
And then there's the facts one.
Yeah.
And I think facts is my favorite.
Nah, I like.
Even though it looks so bootleg.
Yeah, the battle one is.
The battle one's good.
But I wouldn't want to put the battle one up because it's too hip hop. But the curb one was like, oh yeah, I'm putting this one up.
But I'd already seen that curb one done the exact same way.
I don't care.
No, I'm just saying like that joke was literally lifted from. I'd already had the exact same feeling already from a debate. It was from whose debate was it that they did the exact same thing where someone was having an argument and they did this?
Yeah, cool. It's funny. No matter what.
What? No, you're allowed to say that something is better than something else when something else is it's already been done. It's just a remix of something that's already been done.
I don't know what you're saying, but it's funny.
Well, I'm telling you right now, and I'm saying this factually, the battle one was better, and there's no argument to be had. It was original. It was the first time it's ever been done. They put Bill Clinton walking by, covering his mouth, going, oh. And my favorite thing about the battle one, though, was that Hillary, like she says her line. First of all, that line was a bar, right? Like it was a prepared bar, and the fact that they showed her face smiling, that she's all like smiling as she goes back. People spend too much time on memes. That's a real problem. We'll get to that. Kardinal, I protested you being here on the show.
Oh man, how I'm like Jerobi Jace.
You are
of Juan Epstein.
Well, yeah, but don't you think Jerobi would invite Fife to his birthday party?
You know what
I'm saying?
Theoretically speaking, yes.
You had another party in Toronto.
I did.
I didn't even get an invite.
But Ciph said he didn't want you there. So
Ciph?
Which one is
that true?
Which party is this?
See, that's the thing. He didn't deny it. He just
Blind
said, which
Tiger.
one are we talking about?
Yep. You told him you didn't want me to go.
The one that Dave Chappelle came to?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh. No, I didn't.
And a basketball player came.
No,
hockey.
Oh, hockey.
PK.
Dude, PK Subban was
PK,
there.
that's my
Subban
man.
was there.
PK, that's my dog. He just got traded.
I know he did say. Anyways, Kardinal, friend of the show. Never been on the show.
Nah.
Which is very weird.
It's very weird because he often talks to me about Juan Epstein.
Yeah.
Well, we know that you don't do anything effective when it comes to taking advantage of people you know and Juan Epstein.
Well, you know what's crazy?
Almost work against it. I think you probably were telling him not to do the show, but go ahead, Cardi.
I was going to say, I almost not didn't want to do it, but there's always this weird thing with Juan Epstein because I travel places and people are like, hey, Cardi, Juan Epstein, they always mention you somehow. You're always in there. You're like the ghost in the room. Like everywhere I go, people know that it's like.
So you think it's sort of in a weird way we could be messing up the aura? Yeah. It's like why haven't you done it yet? And then are you going to disappoint?
I don't know. I mean, we're just talking. So if I disappoint, it's just a disappointing life that I have. So.
That's the thing because you're telling us all about your life. In some ways, it's the worst thing that could happen.
Yeah.
But listen, I wasn't really familiar with you until Drake shouted you out on Saturday Night Live. Now that you've been officially made relevant, I felt it was worthwhile to have you.
Yes.
We got to start at the beginning because, I knew Kardinal's music long before I ever knew Kardinal.
Of course.
I've known Cardi's music. What was the first record I knew of yours? What was your first single ever?
I don't know if you know that. I appeared on Socrates' first 12-inch.
The Brickhouse EP or before that?
Before then, it was a record called Still Caught Up, 1994.
You know what?
1994, where
you know what? You did it. You went further back than I am even capable of.
Yeah, I literally, I don't even think my voice changed. Like, my testicles hadn't dropped yet, so it's like my range was still like alto soprano. So like if you go and dig up that song, Still Caught Up, it's crazy to hear me as like a light teen.
How old were you, literally? 94?
94, 18?
16, 18?
Yeah.
And did that song do anything?
Yes. You know what? It's funny. We were having this conversation about the measure of hip hop at those times, and it's like in Toronto, like we came up at a time where we were like all in high school. Actually, you know what? Yeah, no, I was. We were all in high school, but it's like it was all do it yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah, but this was before do it yourself was
actually
thing.
The kind of do it yourself it is now.
Yeah, like it was a thing where like, all right, well, we can't get our music out any other way, so we got to pool our money together and like, one at a time, everybody gets on kind of a thing. And it's like, to us, the mark of success was, I remember when Socrates did Father Time.
Woo!
Yeah, and I remember it's
Father
like,
Time alert.
Word up. And it's like when he sold like 50,000 12-inches, like that was the equivalent of going like triple platinum. You know what I'm saying? So
do you feel that
Beats was our measure. That's my muscle.
Do you feel
that just walked in?
Do you feel that is that Prince?
That's Prince.
I knew it.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you're now officially a real guest on Juan Epstein because Ciph walked out in the middle of you saying something? That's how you know you're official.
I already know this answer.
No, but
Ciph doesn't take a phone call
or eat.
You have not been on Juan Epstein.
Yeah.
Like Hove, it's like if you didn't do that, he's out there the whole time. He's because you know why? Hove's not a real Juan Ep guest.
Right.
You didn't sit there and just start eating a sandwich. I know you would have if you were hungry. All right, so Ciph, I really think you should take the lead on where we go back.
I don't think so because I know too much.
You know too much.
Yeah.
Well, he just brought up being on a record from 1994, Still Caught Up.
Well, what about do you know the what's the Northern Exposure record?
Yeah, the Rascals, Northern Touch.
Northern Touch. Yes.
Did you say Northern Exposure?
He sure did.
Isn't that a TV show?
It sure was a TV show.
It was about Alaska, correct?
Yeah, it was very good.
Very
good show.
And nothing in life could be more
And that, ladies and gentlemen,
something with Northern Exposure.
Is what America thinks of Canada.
Right,
Weren't you
right.
on Northern Exposure?
He's one of your best friends. God.
Yeah.
Wait, were you on the Rascals record?
I was the.
It was a bunch of you.
I was the guy that did the hook. There was myself, Rascals, Checkmate,
Rascals.
Thrust. Yes.
Oh my God, I forgot about Thrust.
I don't even know who that is.
Because you don't know shit about Canadian rap. I'm gonna teach you.
I heard Thrust.
Thrust had a single that I love.
He's
West Coast guy?
Nah, he's from Toronto. Legendary Toronto cat.
I don't know.
I didn't know that. I didn't know, but he had a record we played on the college radio that I loved.
Oh, word. Yeah.
Where's just a regular version of it, man? They don't have why is there there's a whole category on YouTube called Popular Thrust and Chauclair videos.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, it's only 5 videos, but still.
I was about to say.
There's a Thrust interview. You really get to a lot of Thrust once you...
Chauclair, Socrates, Rascals.
Well, everyone knows them.
I don't remember Thrust. I feel out of the loop.
Do you think that Northern Touch is on... Here's a live version of it. I want
to Get At Me Dog beat before Get At Me Dog.
Exactly.
True.
Do you think it's on Spotify? Do you make money off Northern Touch to this day?
Northern Touch was a little bit touchy. Yeah. Now there was we had to work out the sample scenario, and it got cleared up after. So I'm sure there's a nice check for $8 somewhere
waiting for you. Wait, so hold on. So how did that record come together?
That record, at that time, I think just organically, they had wanted to do this record, bringing everybody in the country together, but the labels were all gonna.
5 of you?
Thanks, buddy. All the labels were actually gonna participate in it, but they didn't end up coming together, but we did lose talk. So yeah, I mean, basically one summer day, like they called me, they told me about the record. They're like, "Yo, can you come down to the studio today?" I was like, "Yeah." And I came down to the studio, and literally we just vibed it out, and it was, you know what I mean? It was just something dope that we just did. And yeah, that was literally the first time though that I think there was actually like hip hop patriotism when it came to, like, you know what I'm saying, like music coming from Canada on a grand scale, because it's like we sold out the whole country for the tour, and yeah, it was wild. Like that was one of the first times that I think people were like, "Yo, it's dope," and they felt pride coming from Canada.
Give us the, like, and I already know, like, I've heard you talk about this many times, but for people listening, like, give us the rundown of how hip hop in Canada was, or how it was exposed and stuff. Like, obviously, I know Toronto is a major city, but like, how does the whole country, like, how did you hear hip hop back then?
I mean,
was it on the radio? Was it?
I like where you're going, Cipher.
I mean, here's the thing, and this is like the real deal, Holyfield, and it's gonna predate many of your listeners. But like when I was a kid in the '80s coming up, because we were so close to New York, what used to happen was we used to have this legendary show called The Power Move that happened on CKLN on 88.1. This is in Toronto, and it used to play from Saturdays from 1 to 4. So
in the afternoon.
No, in the afternoon.
Oh, in the afternoon, okay.
Yeah, which is dope.
Saturdays 1 to 4.
Saturdays 1 to 4. But this is like the time that you used to have to like put foil paper on your antenna, radio antenna. I know people are like, "What's a radio antenna? Why would you put foil
What's
paper
a radio?
on it?
What's foil? What's
What does
antenna?
that have to do? But it's like literally that would be our, you know what I'm saying, our weekly fix. So it's like you
college?
literally had to, it was college.
Oh, okay.
So you literally had to tune in. And Ron Nelson used to come back and forth to New York all the time.
New York City?
New York City. Because he used to bring down people. We used to have a legendary spot called the Concert Hall. And he used to bring down like Big Daddy Kane, Biz Markie, Roxanne Shante.
What do you mean bring down?
To Toronto, or bring up.
Bring
Sorry,
up.
Bring up.
Come on.
Safe.
All
I
right.
know.
No, come on. Bring down. I didn't know what he meant. Bring up, cross
Sorry,
the border.
Bring up. Yeah.
That was the venue where you had your
That's
album
right.
release?
That's right.
Okay, that was this dope venue.
Mm-hmm.
It's now like an internet company or something, right?
Yeah, something wild.
But they still have like the event space, and he was telling me that's where like all the first concerts were, like KRS, Kane, all in this
Early
one
days.
spot.
Yeah, it was crazy because the funny thing is we used to have, I was not allowed to go out at those times, but they used to have battles like New York versus Toronto, you know what I'm saying? Like just the craziest stuff. So I remember like that's one of the first times that Biz like unleashed the Biz dance, you know what I'm saying, versus some probably not random at the time, but random Toronto dancer, you know what I'm saying? Or like he would be in a beatbox battle, or, you know what I'm saying, like they'd have Kane versus somebody, or like Mishy versus Shantae, or, you know what I'm saying? Like whatever the scenario was, Concert Hall was the place to be. But that's how like music was consumed at those times. And it's like because we were so close, like we were up on it. Like I still remember like when Juice Crew came out, like we had that instantly, you know what I'm saying? It's not like we were one of those random places. People think of Canada and they think of like Japan or like Europe or something. Like we were.
When rappers go for the first time, they're like, "I'm going overseas, to Canada."
That's one of my jokes.
One of your oldest jokes, but
like,
it's true because they really think of it as like I'm going to a foreign
Europe.
land.
People think Canada's Europe. Yo.
Here's a Juan gem for you.
Okay, One Up Gem.
So when I
you can't tell us what Juan.
Yes, he
gems
can.
are. We tell him.
Ciph, how many? I have a question. Cardi.
Yes.
Hold on, Ciph. How many One Up episodes have you listened to?
You know, the most
0?
times I've ever listened to Juan Ep is
With Cardi. Cardi, how many have you listened to?
Probably all of them.
Probably all of them. Probably all of them. So he knows a gem.
So here's the thing. When I'm jumping, we can go backwards after loose talk. But so here's the thing. There was a time that I was in studio with Timberland, and at the time I didn't know, like, because he had reached out to me and said he wanted to work with me, which by the way was like a super crazy, like,
of course,
honor. So we in studio and he's like, "Yo," he's like, "You know, the first time that I heard about you was Missy that put me on to you." I was like, "Oh, that's just even more dope." He's like, yeah. She's like, yo, Tim, I was overseas. And I was watching the Much Music. And there was this cat on there, and he was crazy. And so I guess Missy like had gone to Toronto, watched Much Music.
Thought she was overseas,
right? And
but she's from Virginia.
It's not funny though. Yo.
Listen, let me show you guys something, because you guys have this perception of Canadians. We have a perception of you guys also, where it's like we're like, you gotta forgive them. They don't know any better, but they also don't care. So
is that you think a really common thing, is that Canadians like Americans, but you just sort of like, they're not so culturally aware.
You know what it's like? It's like when you have that like the big, I guess, like big strapping older brother, but he's not too bright.
Yep.
So it's like, you know what I mean? Like you like rocking with him. You're like, yo, that's my bro.
Yeah.
And then somebody asks like a really smart question, and you're like,
not for him. Not for him.
And then after you're just like, you got to excuse him. Like, you know what I'm saying?
He's strong.
He's strong and he looks out, but
he'll be there for you.
Mad chicks too, yo.
Gets mad chicks. He's great. He's great. We don't know what they talk about. But... So, who is the first Canadian rapper to pop ever?
It depends on who you ask, but for me, in my perception, it would be probably Maestro.
That's the one.
You
think,
because I mean, Maestro was the first to like.
Talking about Maestro Fresh West.
Maestro Fresh West, yeah. Like he went when I was a little kid. He went platinum, and probably a few times platinum with Let Your Backbone Slide, and it's crazy because I was just at the Red Bull Music Academy in Montreal, and I was talking with Just Blaze. He's there for a few weeks, and he's like,
Energy.
And he was like, so stupid.
You don't have to do that. You don't have to have beef. I don't think they see it that way. I mean, they may, but it's okay.
So, but he was like, yo, for us, he's like, for us in the States, that's the first Canadian rapper that we ever heard about, and I didn't know that Maestro like popped that heavy outside of Loose Talk.
He's exaggerating to a degree. I know who Maestro Fresh West was. Just Blaze, nerd, knows who Maestro Fresh was. Did you even know who he was back then?
I think his video, he did have a video on Video Music Box.
The reason I first heard wasn't even Let Your Backslide. It was because Showbiz produced Fine Tune.
Right. That's what I was saying to Just Blaze, because I think for us that was hype. You know what I'm saying? Like when he started to work with Showbiz back.
Okay, so then here's the perfect way to describe it. If the person he collaborated with in the U.S. that was a big deal was Showbiz, think about what level of popularity that makes you in the U.S. Because Showbiz was underground, is outside of the party group Soul Clap. Showbiz was an underground producer.
But the climate of hip hop was also different.
Totally different.
At those times, like he was an underground. If you have genres or subgenres, he was underground, but at the same time, in
if
the
you
grand
knew
scheme
what was
of things
up,
in hip hop,
he was lit.
Yeah.
Right. Very, very true. I mean, he's one of my all-time favorite producers. So, did Fine Tune the Mic blow up too up there?
You know what? It did, but I think it was one of those ones where we wanted it to go. I think just as people that were cheering him on wanted it to go further, but it was big. Like in the clubs, that's when I really started sneaking out and going to clubs and all that. And it was crazy, you know what I'm saying, to hear that song in the mix, because the one interesting thing that I'm sure we could talk about later is that Canadians, and especially like Toronto DJs, not playing Canadian music at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of those ones where we didn't start playing it until like really mid 90s, like during that whole like independent movement. So there was people like, the Ghetto Concepts, Socrates, Shaw Claire, G Knight, Thrust, Frankenstein, 6 Cent, Citizen Kane, a bag of people from Toronto that were just putting out their own shit. And it seems like everybody also had their own independent label at the time, because that was just the mindset, you know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta put out music, all right, we gotta form a label and put that shit out. So I mean, Figure Four yep, Figure Four came along a little bit later, but that was Mr. Morgan, a dude named Dugay, and Saul G.
So there wasn't a rapper, because Maestro Fresh West is from the early 90s. There wasn't, or late 89.
So there's Maestro. There's also Mishi Me, who, if you go back and look at the lady's first video, Queen Latifah, for all you ignorant bastards that have no idea of what we're talking about, Mishi was in the lady's first video. So Mishi Me, she was also signed to MC Light's Pop's label. What was it? First Priority. She was also signed to First Priority back in.
She was a rapper?
Yeah, Michi Me.
Oh.
Hell yeah. She was supposed to be on Arsenio, but something happened in that.
Wow, that is an amazing.
Bill Clinton bumped her.
That is an amazing thing to like. That line was amazing. Yo, Michi Me, man, she was supposed to be on Arsenio.
Supposed to be on Arsenio.
Idiot, didn't make it to Arsenio.
Yeah,
that'll do it. If
Yeah.
you don't get to Arsenio, now.
I'm just wondering, like, what's the Toronto scene at the time? Like, there's a couple clubs that play hip hop.
No, I mean, club wise, there was mad clubs. Now you got to understand, like, for me, I was too young to go out to them spots at that time. But it's like you had everything.
But where are we now? Like late 80s, early 90s.
We're talking about like during that time, concert hall is the spot. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying?
right.
But it's like you got Dream Warriors, and Dream Warriors is very important to note because it's like they were the first to sell 1 million albums in terms of being a hip hop act coming from Canada. And what's super ill is if you know their history, you know that like back in whenever that was, like maybe 90, 91 or whatever, like the big thing was that Gangstar was opening for them. You know what I'm saying? When they
In
used
Canada.
to tour Europe and all that. Yeah, like
What was
they were
it?
the big
Dream Warriors?
Dream Warriors.
Never even heard of that. You know them?
I've heard of them.
Mm-hmm.
Hip
I
hop?
don't know record.
Hip hop, yo.
I've seen the records though.
Massive in international.
What was like the sound of it?
Jazz, which is
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
okay,
it was
like a mixture, like a.
a very
There was
very
no
jazzy
like
group.
mid '80s Canadian rapper was like, we are here to
They
tell
were they
you
were there. But
all
they were
about the
there.
game.
But they were there.
I was trying to think of a Canadian version of Bad.
Like you
early
mean
80s.
you're talking about like were there like block parties like there were here in New York and like
Yes, lots of yes,
We call
yes,
them
yes.
blockos, though.
Let the poppers pop and the breakers break.
Yeah,
Blockos?
We call them blockos.
The block parties.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know at the blockos?
like
who-
here's what I'm saying. Like we know the concept of bringing out the speakers and having the park jams that Kool Herc is credited for.
Right.
Sorry, is a Jamaican thing.
So many
Most black
Jamaicans.
people in Toronto or in Canada are Caribbean.
Yeah, facts.
So they had to also have
Of course, but we had them
down a block
we had
party.
them at like the rec center though. So it's like if you were, when I was a little kid, until I was about 12, I grew up in an area called Flemington Park. So there was the resort center, and then there was the other community center on the other side
Your gun just fell.
of the neighbor.
Your man just dropped his piece.
Dropped his piece.
Chill. So there were definitely, you know what I'm saying? There were definitely parties that happened in the park, at the rec centers, the community centers, and all that. And I
They were
mean,
playing what? Like all like U.S. hip hop or like
yeah.
breaks?
I mean, you see, it's funny, like U.S. hip hop
was
as
hip-hop.
opposed to what, the German hip hop that you guys
didn't
are
play
playing?
any MC
How about-
Solar up in there?
Chill. Stereo MCs? Nah,
play stereo MCs?
We're good. We're good on that.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Connected.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the first time I remember like hearing Public Enemy's first album was at a rec center party. You know what I'm saying? Hearing joints off Yo Bum Rush the Show. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
as a kid, like that's where, you know what I mean? That's where everybody went. Like in the park, you went to the jams at the center, and
Oh,
that's
that
what
it was indoors because it was very cold up there.
Very cold. Very
Guys, don't worry about it. It's my big brother talking.
cold. Don't worry.
Same.
Yo,
Gotta do it.
honestly, yo, that
What were you guys doing? Drinking Tim Hortons?
yo, the 2 weeks of summer they got up in Canada is fire.
Oh, it's amazing.
Fun.
Woo!
Oh.
Yeah.
Yo, I want to. This is later. I don't even know if we're going to talk about this, but Jamaica is the fucking epicenter, yo.
Yeah.
It's the fucking epicenter of like all my favorite shit, like Toronto, New York, UK.
All leads back to Yard.
It's all Jamaica because like if you go to like some of the slang used in Toronto is similar slang in
Chill. Let's discuss
UK.
that.
But it's because it's Jamaican.
No, but yes, but that's the thing that's crazy is it's like, remember, like when I first, and I know we're skipping all over the place.
all right.
It's like a
when
Howard
I-
Stern interview.
When I signed to MCA here in America,
Yes.
and I put out Bacardi Slang, like that's literally what it was. What it was, like the song was about.
Yeah.
But like that's what it was. Is like where we come from. That's the type of slang that we used in the street. Like a lot of it was influenced by Jamaica and the Caribbean on a whole. So it's interesting now because there's like a resurgence of the whole Caribbean influence in the music. But it's like, it's funny because they're like, why is Drake using that London slang? And I'm like, I mean, big up the man them from London, but it's like you know what I'm saying? Like, we've been on that probably like historically the same amount of time that London's been on it, because it's like the first time that I went to London, that's exactly why I love London, because I was like, yo, this is just like Toronto, except you guys wear tighter clothes,
right? Like, and have funny accents.
Yeah, that's what it was, because we were still wearing baggy clothes in hip hop like the first time I went there, like late 90s, and they were like
already tight,
wearing that gripped up like.
Yeah. Euro style. That's
like,
why I call it Euro.
That's exactly what it was. Like, I remember when Sway and Pirelli came to visit me in Toronto, and I was like, I didn't understand. Like, it's like, guys, just let your clothes breathe. But you know, that's
they were ahead of their time.
Kind of.
Shout out Jamaica, yeah.
Kind of.
So yeah, to make a long story short,
just the island itself. Shout out to Jamaica.
No, a lot comes from Jamaica.
All right, so so the indie scene. So you start playing records, then Canadian DJs or Toronto DJs start playing the music more.
Well, and let's talk about that. When you guys come on the scene in the mid-'90s, it's around the time.
Loose talk, by the way.
What do you say?
Loose talk.
No,
Loose talk is
kind
of like pause.
No, it's not like pause. Loose talk is anything that can be possibly taken as sexual in any way. It's way more fun than pause. Pause is just immature.
Yeah, pause
loose
is
talk. Loose talk is where it's at. I'm trying to up your game, fam. Trying to up your game.
Oh, because pause also is inherently sort of homophobic.
Right.
Whereas loose talk,
anything sexual.
It could be about anything.
Yeah.
Anything sexual.
So that way, because we always have that situation where someone says pause, you're like, it's a girl.
Yeah,
right.
It's like the joke's still the same.
No, it's loose talk.
Loose talk, yo.
It's loose talk.
Yeah.
You
Loose
know
talk.
what? Cardi, once I run with a slang, it's out of here.
Well,
because I run to the point where it's I will
loose
keep
talk,
going.
You don't understand.
Keep going,
like,
loose talk.
Here's the thing.
Sorry, hold on. I'll keep going till I finish.
Loose
talk. Serious loose talk.
Loose,
all right.
loose.
I didn't even know what my loose talk was before, but mid-'90s.
I think you were like talking about coming on the scene. Loose. Yeah.
That's hilarious. How can something that's the exact same thing but different, just slightly different, be funny? So, but mid-'90s is the way I viewed it was the Canadian underground scene came about the same time the Fat Beats New York scene happened, because almost all those early Canadian records I got were when I would make trips to go to Fat Beats,
right? And
that's when I bought all of your guys. That's the first Shaw Claire record, Socrates record.
I'm gonna try and like just give you the super important stuff, like when it came to me and my crew. So remember, this is not a lot of this is Toronto's story, but there's like different sides to it. You know what I'm saying?
Of course.
From us, like to be honest, our crew. We started as a crew called Figures of Speech, FOS, and that once like we incorporated like Shaw Claire and his crew Paranormal, we grew into this crew called The Circle. So all of us, we were like from all over the place, like, you know what I'm saying? Like I moved out of Flemo and went to Scarborough, then I was in a place called Oakwood and Vaughan.
By the way, in case anyone's never been to Scarborough, let me be the first to tell you, it is Repug. Spent a lot of time there, enough time to call it Repug. Scarborough Town Center, fairly Repug. Rainforest Cafe, you know what I'm saying? Enjoy yourself. All right, so continue.
Alrighty. So, Socrates and those guys, Shaw Claire, those guys are from Scarborough. I'm from the West. We have, Julie Black's from Finch. Tara Chase was actually from Montreal and then came over to Toronto, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, all we used to do was, because none of us had any money, so we all used to, like, pool all of our money together and put out like one 12-inch. So that's why sometimes you might see like Kardinal on the A side and maybe Solitaire on the B side or Shaw Claire on the A side. You know what I'm saying? Because really we actually didn't have enough money to like put out our own single some of the time. So we had put out a series of different singles through the independent labels were Knee Deep. That's what Socrates came out on.
That's Father Time.
Loose. And
what? Because I said,
No, because I said that's what Socrates came out on.
Oh, yeah. Wow. That's barely loose. That's like...
It's very...
Came out?
Listen. Huh? Came out?
Oh, I guess that can be loose talk.
Hey, see? So there was that. There was, Shaw Claire put out a series of stuff. But anyway,
What It Takes,
through all that, Socrates was actually the first to get a deal in America. He was actually signed to Warner Brothers in 1995.
You don't mock America, okay, Cardi? Big deal.
Yeah, because America knows nothing about mocking. But anyways, so
How
I
dare
digress.
you
I digress.
act out this resentment towards our great nation.
But yeah, he got signed to Warner Brothers in '95. Chauclair got a deal to Virgin in Canada, and then went on to get signed to Priority Records over here, which was pretty dope because it's like, you know, Priority Records at the time was definitely popping. And yeah, there was just a series of things.
They had signed Black Moon at that point.
I know Rascast was on the
Ice Cube,
label.
Rascast.
Fucking, the whole No Limit shit was through Priority.
All the No Limit shit was there. And then didn't Mr. Morgan get a job there as a result?
Mhm.
He came
I
along.
got cool with Morgan.
Was when he was a Priority.
Mm,
Okay, yeah.
see.
That's why I got boxes of C Murder in my basement, baby.
Thank you very
Ah!
much.
I was just stealing from Morgan's office.
Classic.
Word. But so what happened was I put out the Hustlin' EP, and at the time we used to you know go back and forth to stay at Morgan's crib in Brooklyn, and we got the.
How did you guys know Morgan?
Morgan's from Canada.
Well, that I know.
Well,
but was he just like
maybe some of the Juan Eppers don't know that.
Okay, right. That's a good point.
Being
He's a
overly
Canadian dude who
He was a
always worked all the
DJ.
records. But like, how did he get down with everyone? Like, he was just in the scene and DJ.
I think if I remember correctly, like I think he used to like work for like the magazines here or something, like, you know what I'm saying, like doing just in the scene or whatever. But yeah, really and truly, like Morgan was he was a record promoter and just somebody like, if you know Morgan now, he's just that guy that's just very, very good at connecting the dots.
Yeah.
You
Get
know
it
what I mean?
done.
And he's always
it
been
out.
that way. That's the only reason that, to be completely honest, like so many different things happened was because like we go to like all those different conferences, like those hip hop conferences, and Morgan would be like, "Yo, this is this guy. You know him from such and such." So right before you meet him, you're like, "Hey, whatever your name is, yeah, I remember when we met you at the last conference."
But it would actually end up leading into relationships.
Of course,
right?
real relationships. But it was like that was Morgan's whole thing, was he was very, very good at remembering who everybody was, what they did, why they're significant, and the whole 9 yards. And there were so many relationships that that started that way. And you know what I mean?
So you would call Morgan a very key player in the overall history of Toronto hip-hop.
1,000%. Because to be honest, we went and we tried to get a record deal everywhere. You know what I'm saying? In terms of the Canadian labels, and eventually, like, I ended up signing with MCA after my Hustlin' EP went #1 across every college chart in America.
What was on the Hustlin' EP? Is that where?
Hustlin', Mike Doug's.
That's not Old Time Killing yet.
No,
We're not
no,
there
that
yet.
came. No,
Okay.
no, that came after. But very important to note that there was an opening slot on the Bobito tour that he had in Europe. So it was myself, The Roots, Dilated People.
Wow.
Dilated Peoples. I think J Live.
Oh yeah, I've heard of this.
Megahertz, if you remember them. There was a gang of people that were on this tour. And I remember, because we're Canadian, our big brother said, "You guys go first out of all these 12 MCs."
But of course.
But when we went, of course, Rosenberg would know about the Roskilde Festival in Denmark.
I do not. I've heard of it.
It's very legendary. And when we went there, it was like the first show was in front of 10,000 people. They're like, "Canadians, you go first. I know you guys are going to suck, so by the time we get on, we'll be good." We went and destroyed the place. Literally, like by the last song, I had a song at the time called Put 'Em Up, and I had everybody take their shirts off and wave them. And just
opening act.
Opening act. And it's well documented. If you actually look on one of my 12-inch covers, Loose Talk, there's actually the picture from the Roskilde Festival. And you know, by the second day, we went right before we were the third in line to close Loose Talk. So very, 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 very important, because Bobito gave us that shot, and it's like when we came back to America, everybody was like, "Yo, I heard about blah blah blah," and all that hype plus being #1 on all the college charts led to my first deal with MCA.
So, in the order of things, though, was the first big thing that happened was Northern Touch?
For us, it was because we still at the time measured success by whether or not America accepted us. So when Northern Touch was on BET, like it was a big
deal.
It was a big deal.
And that was after or before the Choclair single for Just a Second?
That was after.
After that. So
That was
Choclair
after.
comes out first,
Mhm.
but it's just like an indie, fat beatsy kind of record.
It,
Or was it bigger up there?
I mean, it was in Canada. It was very, very big, Loose Talk, and in America it did very well too. You know what I'm saying? Because the other thing to note is we used to come here and we used to do all those shows. Like we used to do Eclipse, we used to do Stretch and Bob, but also like we go to the West Coast, we would do like
Revolution.
We do, like we did Sway and King Tex joint. We did Friday Night Flavors with like Mr. Chalk and all those guys, C- and all that stuff. So it's like we did the friggin' the rounds across America. You know what I mean? We'd go to. That's how I met Clinton Sparks, is doing the mixtape circuit in Boston. You know what I mean? I know Sparks and G Spin and all those guys from way back then. Khalid, like, you know what I'm saying? Like we literally went everywhere. And
you do Khaled show his show in Miami?
Nah.
You never did the whatchamacallit
underground
show?
one.
The underground one.
The Pirate Station.
Yeah.
You didn't do the Pirate Station?
No. We we were cool with Khaled, but the funny thing was I never did Khaled show until like way later, like Dangerous Times. You know what I'm saying? Like that's literally like when I actually went on Khaled show. But we knew him from just being in the mix and the conferences and just...
So was Choclair the first one to really pop and become a star?
It depends on what you call or how you classify a star. To us, of course, you know what I'm saying? Like when he came out with his first album, Ice Cold, it went 30 days. I mean, gold in less than 30 days. I remember Snoop Dogg.
Remember his single Rubbin', Loose Talk?
But like, got another one gem for you in a second.
All right.
But he had the song that was called Let's Ride that I produced.
You produced Let's Ride?
I did.
Let's Ride was lit.
So it was in
Blue
one,
Vinyl.
it was in one of those video games. I'm not a gamer, so I can't remember which one it was in.
What's that?
You can't put lit with those records back then. It doesn't fit.
Let's Ride was popping. Let's Ride was great.
It was dope.
It was dope. It was
Great is generic. He's great.
That's so generic. What else would we say?
Yo, I remember.
It was the joint. It was the joint.
Here's the thing. It was because it was in a video game. I remember seeing Snoop in this interview, and it was playing while he was playing his video game. He's like, "Yo, I love this joint." Yo, anyways, him and Dre were actually big fans of Choclair, and when I can't remember what tour it was. I guess that would be like what, Up in Smoke or something.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, when it came to Buffalo, like he invited the whole crew out, and we all went. You know what I'm saying? Like as special guests of these guys to watch the Up in Smoke because he was such a big fan of Choclair and Let's Ride. So, you know what I'm saying? Like at those times, like all these different movements that the crew was making was starting to like register with really, really big name people and really,
And Ciph, that's exactly around when you started meeting Morgan, right? When Choclair put out his album. Because the album was on
priority.
Yeah, right? The album was priority, right?
Before that.
The single, I think Let's Ride might have come out indie first.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time Rubbin' came out, that record, Loose Talk, was on priority, I believe. And then the album came out. We got to talk about, we should have a separate time with Choclair to talk about the album cover. We got to reconsider that. It might be too late, but I think we should reconsider the album cover look. But you produced that record, and do people start recognizing you as a producer as well?
Still don't. No.
No wonder you're a friend of Juan Ep. Underappreciated. Still don't.
People what? You produced that?
I
Get
forgot.
out of here.
Yeah. Which of the other records back then did you produce?
I mean, co-produced a bunch because that's the thing is like we used to, again, because we didn't have the money to be able to afford to pay anybody, we used to just have to make the records ourselves. So literally in Socrates' basement out in the East End, it would be like myself, Socrates, Marvel, Solitaire. We were pretty much the producers from our crew. And I produced
Solitaire. You know Solitaire through him, I'm guessing, correct, sir?
Yeah, Morgan and him, yeah.
Yeah. So, another one that I produced was super underground, a song called Words Of by Marvel. There's a bunch of stuff that I produced back then, but it's interesting because bringing up Solitaire because he produced Bacardi Slang.
Yes.
And what's crazy is it's like before I got my deal, we were on a road trip to Buffalo because that's what we used to do. Either you would go to New York City to go shopping, or if you're like can't make it all the way to New York, let's just go to Buffalo because New York just had cheap shit.
Right.
And we were like 20 minutes away from the hood, from the neighborhood, and that Bacardi's.
So what company did you talk? We just talked about Buffalo last week. Was it Kodak?
Huh?
Is Kodak in Buffalo?
No, that's Rochester.
Rochester.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Buffalo is where
Get
they
yourself
make
a
the
New Era
wings.
hat. Get a hat.
Yeah.
Eat some wings. Get a hat. All right, keep going.
Anyways, the beat came on for Bacardi Slang, and literally, like, I was like, "Yo, fam, we got to make a U-turn."
What do you mean? Like he was playing?
He had a beat tape,
Right.
and he was playing like all the beats that he had made for like.
You were driving to Buffalo.
Driving to Buffalo. Listen to
You're
this
just playing
beat
some
tape.
beats.
Playing
And
some
that's
beats.
about what, hour and a half for those who've never.
Yep.
Okay.
But 20 minutes in, I was like, U-turn.
Oh, really? You heard that beat and was like, oh, we got to go back. That's crazy.
We got to go back. And yeah, so Bacardi Slang
I just want to say that
was-
if you whistled and pointed and said we got to go back, that would be loose talk. You just whistled at him and we're like, turn around.
If you're a Jamaican, because they're the only people that take it even further. Like
Another level of
you
that.
cannot say that's. You know what? That's pretty much the origins of all this. You think that you can't say anything with pause or loose talk? Try going to Jamaica and saying anything.
Yeah, you can't say
You can't say anything.
That's the essence of the pause game.
I'm telling you, just like how you guys had to discover that we created hip hop is the same way we discovered the pause game. I'm just saying. Yes.
You should be more proud of hip hop, but both are relevant today.
Yes,
in their own way.
Absolutely.
All right, so you say turn around. We got to go record this joint right now.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, like I don't know. I just got my whole thing. I'll be honest. Like growing up, you know. Like Kick This One for Brooklyn, like, you know what I'm saying, MC Light, like that was one of my joints. A lot of my favorite hip hop things were always ones where they took pride in their city or their borough or whatever it was. You know what I'm saying? Like it was just the whole feeling around it was dope, loose talk. But it's like there was nothing for Toronto. You know what I mean? Like there was nothing for where we came from. And at the time, looking back, I'm like, yo, we were like super deluded or just way ahead of our time. But I was like, yo, when I get on, I gotta let the world know like what it is, you know what I mean, coming from Toronto. That was really it was my thing. And that's why like with Bacardi Slang, it was so Toronto centric, and like literally the end of the hook was everybody knows it's the T-dot, because I was like, I need niggas to know. You know what I mean? And yeah, like when I got signed, you know, that was the first single, and yeah, it was dope to come to the States and hear
How big
it
did Bacardi Slang get in Toronto, in Canada?
Massive. It was like one of our
Bigger than Northern Touch?
in a different way. Northern Touch was more important for the country, whereas Bacardi's
It was like the first. It was like one of the first.
Yeah, there's always only going to be the first thing
only ever
at
was.
one time. But Bacardi Slang was important for Toronto and for Canada, because even if you weren't from Toronto, you felt good because you're like, yo, this is somebody that comes from where we're coming from that's bigging up his city. But on a whole, it was just crazy because people would call you and be like, yo, I'm wherever I am in friggin' Ohio and they're playing Bacardi Slang. Yo, I'm in LA and they're using the music bed to talk about used cars or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was starting to be, I guess, interwoven into the genetics of America, which is interesting. The funny thing though is that they still had no idea what to do with me at the time.
The label.
The label had no idea. Like,
What do you mean? What to do with you?
because they're like, well, because you have to understand, like, there wasn't anything like me out at the time. So it's like
that has nothing to do with you being Canadian, though, is it?
It does, because remember, you guys are like the big, muscular, kind of dumb
Yeah, but
brother. So it's like they're like, well, he's Jamaican, and they threw me on tour with Shaggy, and I mean, that was interesting.
Oh, what a tour for the ages.
I mean, the crazy thing was that's when he went diamond, though. So I got exposed to like.
Of course. Amazing stuff.
So many things that I would never have gotten exposed to, and like, you know, going to like you have to remember, like, first time out, you're going to Billboard Awards, you're going here, you're going there, you're meeting all these different people, but they're just like, well, he's Canadian and he's Jamaican, so let's do that, Shaggy.
If this was It Wasn't Me?
Yeah. It was that time.
And how long did you go out with him for?
First of all, loose talk. Second of all, it was a while, but you have to understand, like, that tour was not dying for years. So we went on for a while, a month, 2 months, and then, like, we had other things to do. But it was crazy because Hot 97 is actually, like, pretty key in a lot of things that I did. Because when Bacardi Slang came out, I'm in New York. Old Time Killing has to do with Hot 97, so remind me about that. But
Really? Okay.
Bacardi Slang came out, and I'm here at the friggin', you talk about Repug, I'm at the friggin' Ameritania hotel where they still could find big-ass roaches. Shout out to them for keeping it real at the Ameritania. But I remember I get this call, yo, Cardi. I'm like, Khalid? Yo, I got Rodney on the phone. I'm like, who the fuck? What? I just hear, yo, Kardinal. I'm like, yo, who's this? Bounty killer? Because you have to remember, for people that don't remember Khalid at those times, hardcore into dance hall.
Well, of course.
He was the more fire guy. We're like, yo, who's this American guy that's always saying more fire? So he called me with Bounty Killer on the phone when Bacardi Slang came out, and Bounty was like, yo, I won't do the well, maybe I might.
Yeah, you might have to.
He's like, yo, Kardinal, I love Bacardi Slang, the way I say, but I need to make it official for real. I need to legitimize it and make people know so they can realize it. So Bounty,
hello.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, Killer wanted to do the collab because he saw what we were doing with the whole, like, patois and the whole Jamaican vernacular, but he wanted the world to understand that this was a real thing and wanted it to be like a legitimate, you know what I'm saying, movement. So Loose Talk. So he came, Loose Talk, on Bacardi Slang, and he did the Bacardi Slang remix.
Yes, of course. I remember it well.
You know what I'm saying? We recorded that in New York.
You didn't know him before that?
Nah, I never met him. I knew who he was, obviously, but nah, I never met him.
That's a crazy phone call again.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Khalid, shout out to Khalid, but that shit was hilarious. That's literally how it went. But
have you ever heard anyone who calls Khalid?
Yeah, lots of people.
They do?
Yeah.
Like, besides people who are speaking, like...
Normally I yell at them, but Cardi's my friend.
And what do you say to them?
It's Khalid.
How could it be Khalid? It's
Khalid.
Only it's actually Khalid.
Only because of the way that the person
Cipher
says it
sounds
is what their name is.
Right. So since
if he says DJ Khalid, that's his name.
Yeah, but that's because he also didn't want, at the time, it was a little bit
Doesn't
suspect.
matter why.
You can't say DJ Khalid. Like, you've got to do it for the
Doesn't
American
matter why.
Big Brother.
That's
what it is now.
Name, yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right. Well, I'll say it
calling
like
Khalid.
ignorant. That's...
His mama calls him Khalid, you're calling him Khalid.
So, well done.
So how did... So what ended up happening with that record?
Bacardi Slang?
Yeah, with the
Massive.
remix though, and then but in America, what did it? Did they ever figure out? Could they throw you on tour with?
I went on tour with Baby Sham after that.
Okay, then they toured Baby Sham,
another Jamaican,
right? And
not the Baby Sham from the Flip Mode, by the way.
It should be noted.
I mean, this is Juan Epstein, so there's probably some people that are confused. Baby Sham had his own tour, but shouts to Baby Sham.
Wait, hold on, real quick.
What's the other Baby Sham?
From Flip Mode.
Flip Mode.
Oh, hell yeah.
So, by the way, I don't know if this is the best way to be remembered. People go, remember? Wait, there's another one. Oh.
Baby Sham was dope, yo.
I know,
but
name-wise, tough.
Dope segue to the Old Time Killing story, because I came up here, and of course he's Jamaican, so put him on with Bobby Condors and Jabba. Shout to them. But again, that was an honor just for
do
us.
It right.
You know what I'm saying? Just first of all,
like, you wanted to do these things because yes, you are Jamaican and you're proud to be have Jamaican heritage. So you wanted to do these things they were suggesting for you to do, but it's not the only thing you wanted to do. You wanted to do that rap shit.
Of course, because that's
what it is. Yeah, the music was hip hop music.
People that know about me, they know me for two things. They're like, you're that guy that does the reggae hip hop thing, or they're like, oh, you're that kid that's nice on the mic, like underground lyricist. So this, it's one of the two. But anyways, so I'm Bobby and Jabba's show, and they're like, yo, you have a phone call, Cardi, and it's Busta. So you have to understand, this is Busta at Busta motherfucking Rhymes time, like Busta.
J Records.
Can I say one thing? Just to pop your bubble just a little bit, Loose Talk.
Oh, man.
I understand how excited you were to get that call from Busta in the Hot 97 studios.
Busta
But here
used to
at
call
Hot
all the
97
time.
employees, we would almost never answer that line because we knew it was Busta.
Exactly. 'Cause that's how often he was.
Yo, Busta, I love you to death, yo. Loose talk. But sometimes we'll be like,
loose talk that. I don't think.
sometimes we'll be like, don't answer it. It's Busta.
He's calling to tell us something, or
What kind of disrespect am I deal with? So I'll just pretend like I did. I'll pretend like I did it. I'll pretend,
Yeah,
pretend
no, I
like that didn't
understand.
happen,
Why?
and I'll pretend like that didn't
All right,
happen.
so yeah, so
So
Busta
let's
go.
go back. It's hype, and
Here we
and
go. We're all
this
feeling
is-
good.
So this is like again like Busta time.
Right.
So he's like, it was crazy because it was his birthday that day, and he had been, I guess, trying to track me down. So we ended up going to studio like that day. It's also important to note that that was the first time the Raptors made it to the first round in the playoffs, and that was the actual day that we got eliminated because Vince missed the shot.
Vince Carter, yes.
But
So I do
all of
remember
those,
that well.
all of
All
those
that was
legendary,
happening like in that moment.
same day.
Yeah.
So I remember going to studio with Busta.
After the radio?
Mm-hmm.
So after you went to Busta said come in the studio.
Yep. Yep. And whatever, like we just kicked it, and he's like, "Yo, I wanna get on that remix for Old Time Killing," and yeah, like a few days later, we were in studio,
Crazy.
and it happened, and like like that whole time was crazy because within there, grinding happened,
Yeah.
like shortly after Old Time Killing came out too. So
Now, Grind and Remix. Do you end up on that? Is that random?
nah, the meeting with Pharrell, so stupid, ignorant, random. Like we were in Toronto. I came back from.
You guys don't know each other yet at this point?
Me and Ciph? Not
Yeah.
really. What? Yeah,
Not
but not
really.
really. Like,
Oh yeah, no, we're not friends like that.
nah,
Okay, got it.
them times he's still like with Flex and like
Yeah.
I know Jay Grand at the time,
Right.
so I have to work my way up to like Ciph and those guys. No,
Got it,
no
of
shots
course.
at Jay Grand, by the way.
No, but Jay
But-
Graham was one dealing with people and DJs and more things like
Right.
that. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Plus, I was a fan of his mixtapes, believe it or not. Jay.
I guess
Graham.
Morgan.
Honestly, I never heard a Jay Graham mixtape.
What?
Nope.
You weren't in these streets, son.
Jay Graham
Anyways,
mixtapes.
Oh yeah, hilarious.
we're in the club, and I'm
I don't hear them
going
now.
up the stairs, and this door opens that I'm going into, and it's Pharrell, and I'm like, yo, what up? I'm Kardinal. He's like, yo, fam, I know exactly who you are. I'm like, yo, I'm like massive fan. I'm like, what are you doing here? He was promoting NERD at the time, and I was telling him like, he's like, yo, Old Time Killing, that's my shit. And I'm like, yo, that is crazy, because you have to understand, this is Neptune's time. This is not even
Yeah.
Pharrell. This is Neptune's
Oh yes, like
height of everything. And I'm like, yo, that your group, Clips grinding, that shit is crazy.
Yeah.
He's like, yo, I want you to get on the remix. And I'm like, sure you do, Pharrell. I'm like, thanks for saying that. It's very nice of you to
Sure,
be.
I'll hear from you. I'll be waiting.
Right. So I get a FedEx to the studio 2 days later. People say, why did you get a FedEx? Because in those times, you had to FedEx the friggin'
That was
for
it.
the sessions.
That was the only way.
Fam, it was a friggin', I guess it was from Star Trek or whatever. But yeah, like I got the session and literally I put it in, loose talk. I put it in and the song, and
Yes, I
the
get
verse, that verse was written, recorded, and on its way back like within 20 minutes.
Was anybody else on it at the time?
No.
So what was the session? Like just the beat?
Just the beat. Just the beat on the Pro Tools. So like you have to imagine, like, you know what I'm saying, like for a kid from Toronto that just got on, here's this crazy song that's like becoming legendary in America, and arguably the biggest production team in the world is like, we want you to get on
It's crazy.
on the remix. And I mean, from that, like that kind of just solidified the legend of who is this Kardinal guy, because that just went everywhere. And I remember them times is when we started to become cool, because you were at MPS the time when we performed it with
This is when Ciph realized that he could get something from you.
right.
So once you were popping, and he was like, "Oh, I get a free trip to
No.
Toronto."
Ah!
That's what
I
he
knew
said.
about everything happening because I was cool with Morgan.
Right.
And I was like the #1 supporter of like the stuff more. I would play anything Morgan had. I was playing it first.
Right.
But the
You
stuff he
know,
was promoting.
It's like Cardi's production credit. I get no credit.
Oh,
But,
that's very true. What else? What else? Do you remember what that includes?
Rick Ross, Rihanna, you know.
No, I know those ones. that Morgan was working.
Oh, everything. Every Cardi record. Morgan also worked for. He was like a consultant for Green Sleeves, which is like a reggae label.
Of course.
That's true.
So all that Vibes Cartel shit, Wayne Marshall. I was playing all that shit early.
Yep.
And
that's important to note because we said that we called him Jamaican because like
Who, Morgan?
Morgan because he's Jewish, but he was more Jamaican than me half the time because he was really
Knew what was going on.
no. He was waist deep in dancehall.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm talking like real deal Holyfield, like in dancehall. So that's like how I ended up with a lot of different relationships. And I mean, even when he went on to consult for like Atlantic, that's how that whole Baby Sham thing happened and stuff like that. So Morgan was definitely like in that, like in it to win it.
But I was around, and then I started working for Star Trek. Like I got the job working for Star Trek because I broke grinding. You know what I'm saying? Not broke. I wasn't the only one. I was one of them. And then like they were like, oh, we want to get Cardi, and then they got Sean Paul on the remix. Like all that was like, it wasn't because of me and Morgan, but they were like, should we do this? And we were like, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like they looked for us for like the cosign.
You play Clips The Funeral.
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
I thought you were just going to say no, and I was going to say then you ain't real, but you did.
Yeah.
Do you have an extra 1,000 copies of the test press?
I probably got like 6.
There was a time, anytime I was out and saw an Electra test press, it was the funeral every single time. Okay, so now it's coming together. Now, so do they think that at this point now you have a really big opportunity?
Who?
Like label? Or are you between labels at this point?
If I do the math, no. You know what? So at this time, I'm working with Busta. I'm working with Bounty Killer, and I remember that's like, but never mind how big he was in dancehall loose talk. I think that's also around like No Doubt time. So like Bounty Killer is still like Bounty Killer. I was working with Timberland. I was working with the Neptunes.
What do you mean, writing?
Huh?
Writing?
No, they're working on my album.
Just working on your album.
Like working on like doing collabs and all that stuff.
When you did Belly Dancer?
That happened after the Mix Show Power Summit, like after we performed with Clips and Supercat and all that. That's when Pharrell was like, yo, I gotta work with you. I was like, we just paid Timberland, can't afford you. But you know what I'm saying? Like he made it happen. Juan Epstein Gem. So
here we go.
Going to New York, have this session, you know what I'm saying, that I've been looking forward to. Morgs is like, all right, Cardi, we're going to go in there and, just kill it or whatever. So, little known fact, I like to, like, when I'm in studio, I like to focus. Like, it's just me, the music, maybe the producer or whatever, but I like to be in studio by myself. I get in there, and, this is my big opportunity to work with Pharrell. So I get in there, he's on the ASR. I'm like, yo, this is crazy. And there's a random broad. I'm like, this is so whack. Like, I hate people that bring random broads just to be, hang in studio. I don't even look at the broad. And she's like, she's just sitting there, and I'm sitting there. I'm pissed because I'm like, yo, this is supposed to be my time to be, work with Pharrell or whatever. So, anyways, Pharrell goes on. He has this idea, and it's just the skeleton of the beat. And he's like, yo, it should sound like this: a belly dancer, a snake charmer. And I'm like, all right, cool. And I'm, I'm saying, like, I'm writing, I'm spitting, like, because I'm still in, like, underground MC spitting mode. He's like, nah, I need you to do it, like, I need, like, some dancehall kind of thing. And I'm like, this is my first shot to work with Pharrell. I want to rap so bad. But he's like, he jumped on the table. He's like, yo, did you see what I did with Britney? Did you see what I did with NSYNC? Like, you have to understand, Cardi, you got to trust me. I'm shaping the culture. I'm bringing black music to pop. You got to understand, right? Like, he's giving me the salesman. I'm like, fam, I'm with you. All right, cool. Anyway, so I'm doing my thing, blah, blah, blah. And I remember, like, you spit the idea to him, loose talk. And I remember the chick, she's like, I really like the way that sounds. And I'm like, oh, it's Naomi Campbell.
And you just didn't
Random broad that I'm pissed that she's in the session.
So
Why
you
is
don't
she
even-
here?
And why was she there?
I mean, that's
You don't know.
speculatory. I can't confirm or deny why she was there.
But she was there.
Friend
Maybe
of
something loose
friend
happening?
friend.
Loose talk. Loose talk happening.
But it was Naomi Campbell, and that was the type of life that Pharrell led. Like, there's just those type of people. Just
Yeah,
I didn't even look at her, Bridget. I didn't even look at her, my youth. Like, I was like, yo, who's this random thing? Like, who is this thing? And like, why is she here? But that
Pharrell
was
always
super
had
dope because at that point in
Chicks
time,
like that.
yeah.
Pharrell would have the big, like,
Like I met Mick Jagger's daughter. I met what's the other one? What was Tupac's girlfriend?
the Jones?
Yeah,
Dada Jones?
yeah. Met her. There was another one. The guy from Aerosmith's daughter.
Tyler.
Yeah,
These are all friends of
friends. Yeah,
friends.
they were all
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
I don't know if they were getting, but you know what I'm talking about.
When you say that, do you mean you don't know if they were letting Pharrell fart on them?
No, like like if there was queefs happening.
Oh, queefs. You don't know if they were queefing.
Yeah, there
You
was
say you don't know if it led to
queefs
queefs. Okay,
Yeah,
I got
the,
it.
The air was getting pushed out of the vagina.
Out of the vagina, and then it was making a queef
All
sound.
right, okay.
Queef sound. Yeah. Okay, I got it.
Nice.
Now I understand better what you're saying because I didn't understand what you're saying.
Very
I've never heard
interesting.
someone describe sex in that way before.
It's different. It's
It's
new.
very
Why not?
different.
So, in the mix of all this, I had become very cool with one of my favorite producers of all time, Knots, and we started doing music together. Very important to note because to this day, he's probably been one of the most consistent people within my career because we've been such good friends, but also he's just a maniac when it comes to production. All these different things happen, but the time, right at Belly Dancer time, MCA dissolved. Like, they're just shooting people like, the VP's gone, president's gone. Then you get that thing, they're like, yeah, so MCA is going away. It's going to crumble and fall into nothingness. Everybody's afraid. I mean, label people are usually afraid, but everybody's really afraid because nobody knows who's going to have a job. And it gets just sucked up and turns into Geffen. And I remember at the time, like, they wanted me to do all these, like, they only kept myself, I think, the Roots, and I believe it was Black Star that was on the label at the time.
Oh yeah, because
And Common.
Ruckus.
Yeah, so
Had a
they
deal.
kept
Yeah, Ross
so
had a
they
deal with them.
so they kept like 4 of us and I was one of them, but for me their vision was like they wanted me to start doing like these at the time like these weird like put pop people on my song, like we could just put Ashanti on your song, have Swiss Beats produce it and whatever. And it's like at the time like that's not really what the zone that I was in. And we'd get into all these riffs or whatever, but because Theo was my lawyer, we were able to get out of that. Yeah, Theo Sotomayor. So we were able to
Jew Unit.
we were able to get out of that.
Literally, that's Jew Unit.
That's Jew Unit.
It should be noted, by the way, while we say all of this,
Mm.
that I have Belly Dancer on 45.
Again, that was a
that's
Morgan call because we launched Belly Dancer.
Why would you make that?
That's one that
I just,
we pressed them.
yeah, I know, but it may not be exciting for you, but you didn't press that many. I don't even.
That's true.
There's like
Should have asked you. I would have hooked you up.
you had one.
I have many.
You've many of the 45,
Yes, I was there when they were
Promo.
pressed.
but it looks mad bootleg. You made it
Supposed
look
to.
like the old, like
Yeah.
it looked like an old.
Like an old 45.
Yeah, it's tight. How many do you think you
Purpose.
pressed up?
1,000, right?
Yeah, probably. Because we went to Jamaica. We launched that record in Jamaica first. So, like, we went to Jamaica.
with the
to-
45s. That's
with
what
the-
DJs were actually still playing at the time.
That's right. That's right. But, yeah, so anyways, Theo managed to get me off of MCA, which was cool. And
It's so cool that you fight so long to get a record deal.
And then you have to fight to get off.
Yeah, and then you're like,
we
"I
actually didn't
wanna-"
have to fight to get off, which was kind of dope.
No, but I'm saying you
That you
no,
wanted
not,
off at all.
Not a fight, but you wanted to be on a record label.
Yeah.
And then you're like, all right, I want to be off this record label.
Yeah, pretty much. But because of Belly Dancer, we started to get some notoriety in the UK. And a little known fact, I was actually on the first single for this group called Texas. They had a song called Carnival. And Texas, I didn't know who they were. People are like, yo, across the pond, they sold 25 million. You need to get on this.
Shit.
And the album before that, I think like Method Man and it was either Method Man alone or Wu-Tang was like on their first single for the last album. So they were fans of Belly Dancer, and you know what I'm saying, they wanted me to jump on the song. So that's when I started doing stuff in the UK heavy. Like that song blew up. We were on Top of the Pops twice, and it was a real crazy time. Like we spent a lot of time in the UK, to where to be honest, a lot of UK people thought that I was from the UK at that time because we were spending so much time over there. But yeah, that's when I started getting into that whole international mix. And during that, I guess, next 1 to 2 years, like, you know what I'm saying, I ran into Akon on the road. You would run into 50, run into all these, you know what I'm saying, different people. And that's what kind of led up to 2005, when, ironically, at the same time, Rihanna, another Juan Ep gem. I get this call. I'm in studio. I get this call that says, yo, Cardi, it's, what's his name? Mark Jordan. He's like, I'm in Barbados, and I found this girl. She's young, she's beautiful, and she can sing. I'm like, really? He's like, hype. I was like, what's her name? He's like,
Princess Diana.
He's like, Rihanna. I'm like, she's going to have to change her name. She's never going to get anywhere with that. But sounds exciting, though. He's like, yo, I need you to jump on this demo for me. Because at the time, remember, like, my stuff is still playing on BET and MTV, and I'm still doing all this stuff internationally. So he needed the look at the time. And I was like, sure, no problem. He's like, yo, I got a meeting with Jay-Z, and fam, like, I need to go in there and kill it. I'm like, all right, cool. So I ended up doing like 2 or 3 of the demos, and we all know the story. Like, he went in there, they literally locked the door, figured out the paperwork, and like, she had that deal overnight. I was on 3 of those demos. One of the songs they ended up keeping that's on Rihanna's first album.
Which one is that?
Don't remember. I think it's called like No Rush. I don't remember.
But they pulled you off the rest. They were like, listen, there's 2 things. 1, we love this. 2, how do we get this Canadian off of all the songs?
But it's interesting to say that, because that same year that there was Tierra Marie and Rihanna that were coming out, Jay-Z did something at Caravana up in Toronto, which is like our carnival or whatever, for those people that don't know what Caravana is. Something, it was called Rock the Banner, to where Jay-Z was like taking over, you know what I'm saying? Like, The Rock was taking over Caravana, and they had this massive street festival that happened on this big massive block party on the Saturday. And I get a call from, Morgan got a call from Jay's manager. What's his name? John McNeely? Is that the guy? Yeah. That said Jay wants for Cardi to be a special guest. So I was like, yo, this is crazy. So, of course, Kanye was there, Jay was there, but, they're just there. Like, they didn't want to perform or whatever. But I remember seeing him, and that's the first time that I met Jay-Z, and he's like, yo, thank you for being a part of that whole
That's the
Rihanna
first time you
shit.
met him?
Very first time.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And he thanked me for being a part of the Rihanna shit, and I was like,
this is Jay,
sure.
president of Def Jam days.
Right.
So it's
Exactly.
like he was more political, you know what I mean? Not just a rapper. Like,
Right, he was looking for, he was doing business.
always like,
really
always on like the.
So,
And at this point, how cool are you 2 at this point? Still?
we're pretty cool at this time, because this time, like, I think Daytona might be in the mix and all of that.
Yeah, Rihanna, all that stuff happened.
Now we're pretty.
Damian Marley's around, like.
Yeah. We're pretty in the mix.
But wait, that's 2005. Yeah, because I've been going to Toronto since 01.
But yeah, so I performed, and like, I came out and loose, and I did Old Time Killing, and place just
Flattered, yeah.
Yeah, it was ridiculous, and no word of a lie.
Like, would you say they were queef sounds?
No.
Not queefs. Okay. Just checking.
But yo, after that, like, literally after I performed, like, Jay was like, yo, find someone.
Yeah.
Jay ended up performing. Kanye ended up performing. Like, it was legendary. But what was crazy was on stage, and it was halfway a joke and halfway dead ass serious. On stage, Jay Brown walks over to Morgan, like, after the performance, and like whispering in his ear, and Morgan's like, yo, these guys are trying to offer you a deal right now. I was like, and we're laughing because this is happening live on stage. So Morgan whispers back, all right, how much? So he walks over to Jay. Jay's cracking up or whatever. They have a conversation, comes back to Morgan, gives them the number. Morgan's like, I don't know about all that. Like, so this is all happening, but it's all, you know what I'm saying? All at the same time. Like, this is crazy. And there was, you know what I'm saying, at the time, I think he had Rock La Familia too at the time.
Yeah.
But this is happening, and this is wild, you know what I'm saying? But then ironically, Akon at the same time, through a friend of ours, Kirk, wanted me to be a part of this new thing he was building called Convict. So he just came out with the song, the Jeezy joint,
Soul Survivor.
Soul Survivor.
Woo!
So what do you do? What do you do? And I'm a praying person, so I prayed on it, and Akon flew me out, and we just got along literally like brothers from the first day, and I ended up going the Convict route.
Are you still cool with Akon to this day?
Absolutely. One of my favorite people, we've never, ever, ever had any personal disagreements. If I was one of those corny rappers that tattooed Convict on me, I'd be fine with it. Why do you have Convict on your leg? It's,
that is a great way of putting it.
Yeah.
I've been seriously considering getting a rock tattoo.
Right, really.
Because here's the thing, even if it doesn't work out, it's a time in my life that I really appreciate, yo.
Right, fair enough.
I wouldn't get a Hot 97 tattoo, even though I was here for so long.
Yeah, but that's what almost makes it even weirder.
Right.
No, but that's what I'm saying. It feels more personal. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get a paper plane.
Oh, paper plane one?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Wait, I was gonna get the old logo.
Well, that's what Vic Mensa got.
ROC.
Vic Mensa got the
Old
Rockefeller
school joint?
No, he has Rockefeller. Son. He's not even on Rockefeller.
Right, but he got the Rockefeller logo.
I think I'm gonna get the paper plane.
That's awesome.
I'm either thinking small on my arm or my whole back.
You're not going to do either. I refuse. I refuse to believe you'll do either. The paper plane, in other words, the logo that lots of people who know someone who goes to Rock Nation wears.
No, that's not it anymore. Sidebar. Sorry, excuse me.
Sorry.
Cardi.
What is
that
it now?
Paper plane crown, they don't even call it a hat, they call it a crown, is a huge seller. It doesn't,
now it's just out.
It's not that you go to the label or the office and get one. It's people rush to buy them.
Got it. But there was a time when it was just
and
get
that's
one.
But people wanting them made them go, maybe we should do something with these.
Where do they sell them from even?
They sell them everywhere. All stores around the country, online, everywhere. It's like a clothing line now.
Interesting.
That's wild.
I think that's even less of a reason for you to get the tattoo.
I'm getting the tat.
You've already now you just went full blown in.
But I'm gonna get it in Rasta
Do you
colors.
even have?
Yo, why don't you get a Rock La Familia tattoo?
I should get a Rock Life. That logo is a little too hectic though. Too many flags. No, I don't have any tats.
He has no tats. Don't you think it's too late for him to start now?
No.
It's like drinking.
No. I disagree. If you're gonna start doing something, I really think you should start drinking.
Well, but
It's
that's what I'm
fantastic.
saying. But if you're gonna start drinking, then you might as well get across the back, Rock La
You got to do
Familia.
both. How about that? Can we agree to do both?
I took a shot last night.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, with Tony Touch.
You did.
Nah, I faked it. I threw that shit in an
course
ice.
he faked it.
I threw that shit in an ice bucket.
Yep, gone. No thanks.
Oh no, I just dumped it.
That's vintage. So then you make the record with Akon that becomes a hit.
Duly, it's very important.
Dangerous.
It's very important to note that wasn't until 2 years after. I was broke rapper on Convict for a while. Broke in the sense of not zero money, but
You weren't making money.
there was 2 years where it's it's getting slim out there, and you know what I'm saying. I was on tour. Now this is when Akon started doing all that crazy shit. He was on tour with Gwen Stefani. And that's when during the time that he threw the kid off stage and the thing happened in Trinidad. So there's a lot of crazy shit that's happening. He's working with effing Michael Jackson. A lot of crazy stuff is happening at this time. But I'm on the road with them. I'm performing. I'm doing whatever we're recording because we had Timberland's tour bus. So I'm recording every day, but it's nothing's you know what I'm saying? It's nothing's really popping. The very last day of the Akon Gwen Stefani tour, in Vancouver, I get this beat from DJ Chemo from the Rascals. I get this beat and I'm like, yo, this shit's kind of dope. So I say to Exit, who could be your long lost cousin, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, it looks just like him.
Okay.
Shout out to Exit. I say to Exit, who at the time is the Convict engineer, I'm like, yo, play this shit for Con. I'm gonna go up into the hotel, take a shower and come back. So I take a shower, I come back, and I go into the studio and Akon's sitting there with Exit. I'm like, yo, Exit, did you play him the beat? And Con's like, yo, what beat? I'm like, yo, Exit, play him the shit. So he plays it, and I'm looking at him, giving him the, huh? And he's like, you know what I'm saying? And he's literally like, oh, this is cool. And then you just hear, girl, I can't. Like, while the 20 minutes that I went just to go shower and put on my clothes.
Oh, he did the hook.
Laid down the hook.
Wow.
And it was done like super fast. So then I wrote my verses like within an hour, and the whole song only took about an hour and a half to be made. So
How far did that song get you?
My wife's father loves that song. I gave him the CD single. He bumps it to this
day.
Yo, this day. It's important to note, like, that song pretty much changed everything, like, forever now. Even in Canada, they didn't understand how fast that song was moving and how many units it was selling. Like, on the Billboard, like, whatever, like Hot 100, like, it would, if it entered at 100, it skipped to like 80. Like, it was moving fast. Like, by the time that it got like to, like, you know, within the top 40, like, Canada was catching up. Like, what is this? Like, they didn't even know it was happening. So it ended up getting to like number 3, I think, on like the Hot 100. And like, it's super important, not for like conceit or like vanity's sake, but you have to understand that's not like number 1 on the urban charts or the hip hop, you know, charts. Like, I mean, like, I think at the time, like, you have to understand the only other person or 2 people that were beating me out might have been something crazy like Celine Dion and, you know what I mean? Like something else like that. Like, you're competing with everybody. Big time, yeah. And I was like the first, never mind, probably like one of the first artists, period, along with like Nelly and other people. But I was definitely like the first rapper from where we came from to be able to have a top 5 hit on Billboard. So it
the Billboard Hot 100.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, it went multi-platinum, and we literally went to the corners of the earth with that song. Like, here's how crazy it was. I remember we performed for almost 300,000 people on the beach in the south of Spain. And then I also remember like performing in China, and somebody who was like, yo, my 84-year-old Chinese grandmother is in love with you in that song. So it like literally, we went on tour in India, and I remember them saying, yo, what does it feel like to be one of 4 artists from around the planet that gets played in this place that has over 1 billion people? Like, literally, we went everywhere around the entire planet.
How often would you perform it with Akon?
Quite often, actually.
You got to do your share?
Definitely got to do, like, we did. I mean, you got to remember, like, we did everything, though. Like, we did them times, like, you know, we did Leno twice. Like, I was on friggin' Leno with Michael Phelps. Like, it was legendary things that were
Did he ever
happening.
take you to meet Michael Jackson?
Here's the closest that I got to Michael Jackson, loose talk. I'm on the tour bus.
Double loose talk.
You can see Rosenberg's face.
And he's my favorite. But I mean,
he did the Mr. Roper look away from his
I did. I was very proud. I looked at Dreddy and I was like,
I'm on the bus, and Khan's phone is ringing, and Khan is like, yo, Khan, hey, answer that for me. I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm like, hello. He's like, somebody's like, you know, yo, hello, can I speak with Akon? I'm like, sure, no problem. Hold on a second. So I'm like, Khan, it's your phone. It's for you. He's like, who is it? I'm like, I don't know. So he takes the phone. He's like, yo, what up, boy? Blah, blah, blah. And they're having this conversation. No doubt, word. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking it's random rapper. And I was like, yo, who was that? He was like, yo, that was Michael Jackson. I was like, it's Michael Jackson. He's like, yeah. I was like, yo, it was Michael Jackson? He's like, yeah. He's like, yo, you got to understand. Michael Jackson is a nigga just like us. I'm like, what are you talking about?
I've heard that before.
He's like, yo, Mike, like, he's like, yo, when you see Mike's going to give you a dap, say what up, blah, blah, blah. He's like, yo, people think Mike's sweet. He's like, yo, Mike is a nigga just like the rest. I was like, yo.
I always hear that.
That's wild.
Everyone says that, especially on the phone.
That's wild.
So are you saying it was him at first when he called, or was someone else who put him on the phone?
No, that was him.
When you picked up, it was him.
It was Michael. That's it. It's very sad. Before he passed, Akon was supposed to open up for him in that legendary tour that he was supposed to do at the O2. So I was about to be Mike's homeboy at one point in time because I was about to be on that tour. Homeboy?
I don't know.
About to be Mike's homeboy?
Well,
Only if I was like
Mike had other
12 at the
homeboys.
time, but
There were lots of homeboys. Boys. What?
Boys in the house is not what homeboys is.
I thought homeboy means a boy in your home.
yeah.
Okay, sorry, loose talk.
Yeah.
Loose talk. I'm sorry.
But yeah, that whole convict time, like that was an amazing time because the thing about you have to understand. Remember, Lady Gaga. This is when she was.
Did you meet Gaga?
Did I meet Gaga? So
remix.
Here's the thing.
Sorry.
Gaga, the first joint that she and it's historical. You can literally go check it out. Her first actual like hit on the charts was the remix that they put me on.
Which record?
Produced by the Just Dance.
Oh, Just Dance remix.
So the remix, produced by Redman, and
Oh, what up,
featuring
Red
Kardinal.
One?
That was her first rhythmic hit because I remember they presented the charts like, yo, this is Gaga's first. Like they literally, I can't remember what station I went to, but they're like, yo, it's #1. Like you helped do this. So we knew Lady Gaga from like when she was like super weird, like she had this like cane that like projected lights out of it and doing all this weird like New York underground club
her clubby stuff,
performance type shit, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so we know her from them times, but it's like all of us, like T-Pain, Rock City, Lady Gaga,
Wasn't French around back then?
French was on Convict, you know what I'm saying? Like all
Siph,
of
didn't
it.
That's
you
why
say-
I meant French.
Didn't you say, Ciph, that French just showed up one day and acted like he was on Convict, and that's how he was on Convict?
No, I think, you know what, to be honest, I think it was
I know
In
what
a
you're
way,
saying, yeah.
like he hung out until he was down, more or less.
Like I think he
Red Cafe was on Convict
That's right.
was on Convict at the time. But, you know, you have to understand, like, Ja was the guy, like, he was the muscle in Convict, and Ja was in them streets, probably still is. Shout out to Ja, that's my bro right there. But I think it.
there's a connection here. Hold on, there's a connection here.
Mm.
Your boy that. Who's your boy that you told me works for Top? For
Oh,
TV?
2 T's.
You know him?
Yeah.
Mhm.
That when I met them somewhere, he was like, "Ask for 2 T's, tell him you know me."
Mm.
And you know the guy was big, blocking
big-ass
the door.
T's, big license.
And I was like, I think I saw Kendrick at Best Buy when his first album came out by accident. I was just in Best Buy buying something. And there was an album release going on. There was a Kendrick Lamar. So I go over and I
Typical
was like,
Ciph, not paying
Yes,
attention
no
to what's
idea.
going on.
Yep.
and I go over and I'm like, yo, can I speak to Kendrick? They're like, no. Like, who the fuck you? I was like, I was like, are you 2 T's? He's like, yeah. I was like, Cardi. He said, oh, Cardi, come in. Yo, K-Dot, this Cardi's boy. Like right away, like pushed me to the front.
Yeah, cause all those guys it's like family. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, 2 T's is a serious dude in them streets. But the thing is, like, because a lot of killers were around Convict at the time, it's like there's a lot of people that, you know what I mean, we ended up being cool with, because it's like when you're in that family, it's not really about that. Like, it's just, oh, that's 2 T's. Like, 2 T's is the homie. Like, yeah, he, you know what I'm saying, he was part of the security or the muscle with Con and all that, but like he's the homie. So it's like it was a real family thing. So when he kind of, you know, went with Kendrick and was doing all that stuff, like we were all still like super tight. Him and Benny D, Akon's DJ, were like, you know, super like every day still talking on the phone. And it's a thing, one of those ones where it's like to this day, like Kendrick and 2 T's, and then we'll still go kick it at like Benny's house type of a scenario, like when they go to Atlanta or whatever. So
we got to sort of put a bow on this day.
Okay.
Ciph, we've talked about it all.
We've
said it all. We've said it all. We've said it all. We've done it all.
And well, here's how we'll tie the bow, and the Juan Ep listeners will be like, hey, you guys are assholes for
Dare
this.
I say, tie the balloon knot. Loose talk. Continue.
Right. In between there, somewhere, and this is how it all kind of came together. Remember, T-Pain is on Convict. That's family. T-Pain and Wayne, super close. So that's all.
Oh, yeah.
That's all family. And it's interesting because the first time I met Wayne, shout out to Lil Wayne. Like, you remember when people started discovering that Wayne could rap?
Mm-hmm. Carter 2.
When I met Lil Wayne in Miami, actually during right after Hurricane Katrina, and I was like, yo, Wayne, like, this is random back alley. I was trying to be like, you know, under the radar in the shadows. I guess he was too. I met him in a random back alley at an MTV event.
I'm gonna go ahead and just go loose talk.
Yo. Right.
Yeah, when you say I was trying to be in a... Ciph, I held back. I didn't want to be disrespectful.
First of all, loose talk for holding back. So...
Well, I didn't want to bust off.
And he did the Mr. Roper again. But yo, Wayne spit back my verse for Grinding. Like, when I met him, like, he just started rapping my verse. I was like, holy fuck. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like... And to me, that was a super honor. So it's like I always been, you know what I mean, been cool with Wayne. He's always been like.
So what are we tying together here?
Here,
Sorry.
This is the time when Drake starts running with Wayne, and because Drake is running around with Wayne, and Wayne is running around with Payne, and we're all kind of, you know what I'm saying, in that mix. That's how that whole kind of pot got stirred, you know what I mean, all around the same time. All these things are happening. So Dangerous is happening, you know what I'm saying, this Toronto thing's happening, Drake starting to run with Wayne, and like all at that same time, like it's all kind of, you know what I mean, everybody's kind of rocking together or whatever. And then Wayne starts to co-sign Drake, and then at the height of it, you know what I'm saying, selling 1 million in a week, like during that time, that's when the Drake stuff starts to come into it. And, you know, that just took everything to another level in terms of, like, what started to happen. Like, that was the time that started what's happening right now.
Did you, at that time, did you already know Drake? Had Drake run up on you before and been like, yo, giving you a CD, done anything like that?
No, I mean, you know what? Long story short, my boy from that was in the crew, Ro Dollar, was always telling me about this kid. He's like, yo, he's amazing. Like, he was his biggest fan. I'm like, what are you talking about? And when he put me onto the music, I was like, yo, this shit is crazy. Like, the kid is dope. And, you know, it's out there. I remember Khan did an interview recently where he's like, yeah, it's true. I brought the idea of Drake to Khan at the time. I'm like, yo, there's this kid. He's a TV star, actor, like on the biggest show, #1 from, you know, with the age bracket of 13 to 18, like it's a no-brainer. And Khan is like, you know, like, sure, Cardi, but Khan, like, he was just doing 1 million things, so he never really pursued it. But you know, me and Drake definitely had a relationship, and that's how I ended up on Comeback Season on that song, The Last Hope, with myself and him. That was produced by Rich Kid, and I think that was like, what is that, 2006?
7, something like that.
Yeah, 6 or 7. So yeah, we definitely, you know what I mean, like, we were definitely cool at that time. And then yeah, like,
that's the only record you ever did?
Yes.
No.
Yes. What's the other one?
The other one.
Oh, we can't talk about that. We were trying to put a bow on it.
I know. I'm just saying there's another one.
All right, we'll end it with this then.
No, I gotta hear. What are you talking about?
Well,
You're gonna
Gotta
just
go.
No, come on. There's another record that never came out.
There's another one that some stuff got misconstrued, and that's why it's always been a little weird.
Is it still weird? Saif, help me out.
Boy Wonder.
Yeah,
That's how.
I mean, that's not. I mean, it's not. I mean, we're cool.
but Cardi knows Boy Wonder.
Boy Wonder, his first placements were actually on my album that was titled Not For Sale. So that's actually crazy. Like, so was Alex the Kid's first placements were on that album as well. There's a lot of
Super Dupes.
Yeah, Super Dupes. A lot of people that went on to be like massive. Their first looks were with that album that we did with Interscope and Convict. But there was a record that Boy Wonder produced for me, and you know, at the time he was just a kid in high school, and you know, he produced this beat, and it was crazy. He's like, yo, Drake wants to put a hook on it. I'm like, all right, cool. So he sent it to me, and this is very, very key, because when they sent it to me, he was singing, and I was like, well, why is he singing on? Why is he singing? Because remember, he's rappity rap, like
at that point, yeah,
hardcore rapper. So I'm like, why? You know, why is he singing? He's like, Boy Wonder's like, yo, he's trying this new thing. I'm like, all right, cool. So I was listening to it, and I was like, yo, this is dope, but it's like, try and change it. Now, mind you, I didn't know if he was singing it to be on it or if he was just singing it to like reference it. So he sang this hook, and he had this part about, like, I can't remember, shopping at the mall or something. I was like, yo, I need you to make it more hardcore, like feels like we're ready for war instead of like blah, 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 shopping at the mall. Anyways, that song I had done it was supposed to be on that Not For Sale album, but at the time, Drake, remember, he was running around with Wayne. Anyways, so it was the Forever song. And I actually got Rock City to sing the hook over. So if you go online, there's various versions of that song floating around. But that's how that song ended up originally happening, like before, M and all those guys were on that joint. That was a demo for me. And
you never put it on Not For Sale.
Well, here's the thing. Even before it ended up being, the Drake single, at the time there was, like, I think, I don't know if it was Drake that played it for Wayne or whatever, but they did this Young Money version of it where there were, like, Young Money affiliates that were on the song where I guess he played the hook and the beat for Wayne, and Wayne was like, this is dope, and they all jumped on it, and they put it out. And, like, when they put it out, I was like, well, fuck, I can't put this on my album. They already put it out. So that's how the whole origins of that.
And that led to weirdness.
It didn't lead to weirdness. I mean, it was like behind the scenes in terms of, what I'm saying? Like, I was like, that was one of my favorite records. So it was weird for me because I was cheesed because I loved the record. But I mean, it's like what Drake did with it is legendary. You know what I'm saying? And literally up until this very moment, like, it wasn't even worth talking about in terms of, like, it wasn't weird in the way of, like, there was any type of vibes, but
where do you put Drake in? Like, is there a way that you can even qualify at this point how important Drake is to the Canadian hip hop story?
Here's the thing: I would love for Drake to do a Juan Ep one day because there's so many jewels that people have no idea about. Like, Drake used to go out on the road with Socrates when Socrates was the music director for Nelly Furtado. So Drake and Socrates are really the ones that were, like, super tight. So that whole relationship of, like, 40
Juan Ep Gems, thank you, sir.
That whole relationship between, like, 40 and Drake, that all started because our OG Gadget had what we'd call a grasshopper, an assistant who was Gordo. And 40 used to come, like, 40 Loose Talk came up under Gordo and Gadget and all those guys. So those guys used to work together in studio, you know what I'm saying, from way back. So all of that kind of stuff, like, we were all very connected between, Gadget, Socrates, 40 working with those guys in the studio, that whole nine from that era. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, somebody on the internet, but I think the first time that Drake was on a song that really got radio play was when he was a guest feature on a Socrates song. So
wow.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things. Like, I remember I connected Drake with Knots back in them times because they called me. They're like, yo, there's this cat that wants to work with us. I'm like, yo, he's dope. Same thing with Bun B. Like, I remember Bun B called me and he's like, yo, Cardi, only person I know from Toronto is you. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yo, fuck with the kid. He's dope. So all that shit, like, there's a lot of, like, the story that has never been told, but, like, Drake put in his fucking, like, his time. And, you know what I mean? It's not just like Lil Wayne scooped him up and all of a sudden he is magically, like,
yeah. Story, a lot of that story is unclear, honestly. And I would love for us to
listen. That's the thing, and it's just like, I don't know how much Jay gets into stuff like when you talk to him, but now that, like, Drake's on that level, there's a lot of dope things that would probably, like, legitimize him with fans, like,
more than they even realize.
Right? Yeah. So,
I would love to get that.
Yeah, there's a real
Drake Juan Ep.
Ciph, why would we have to go through? I think you could go to Morgan, probably the more likely route to go to.
Oh, Mr. Morgan changed his name to Mr. No.
I got news for you.
All Morgan says to me, yo.
No. Well, I'll tell you what, Mr. Morgan.
No.
There's no chance, based on the amount of conversation about Mr. Morgan in this episode, that he is not going to hear every word of this.
Word up.
So he will hear that you've. Now, listen, I recently heard from Mr. Morgan when I decided I was in a bad mood one day and attacked Drake randomly on Twitter.
Nicely done, buddy.
Thank you. I was having a day.
Nicely
and
done.
Me and Morgan talked after that. But I do.
Straighten it out?
I mean, I just explained to him where I was coming from and why I was irritated. Because what I really talked about, to be totally honest about my pettiness, what I got involved in saying, though I meant some of what I said, it was really because I was bitter about other things, which I think were reasonable things to be bitter about. But I probably didn't need to say what I said, but eventually sometimes you just feel like, not you, because Ciph wouldn't feel that way. Like someone who's emo like me will feel like, you know what, fuck it. And so that was that. But I would love for us to get to help tell the Drake story.
Yeah, that would be dope. And only because it's one of those ones like whenever people talk to me about Canada and Toronto and Drake and the whole scenario, like the thing that people don't understand for me is it's like there is like, when I say a real story, I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in a very positive way. Like there is a real actual story that happened, and it's like, you know, being able to see what he did and those cats, like it's people look at him and they're like, oh, he's a TV star and Lil Wayne co-signed him, but it's like, yo, he put in work. You know what I'm saying? Like he put in a lot of work to get to that spot. And I remember when Semtex asked me, he's like, yo, what do you think about Drake and blah, blah, blah. Like when he was starting, like, it's a real deal Holyfield, like, actual thing where I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Like he's supposed to be there. Like whatever the scenario is now, like when I see him, it's cool. You know what I'm saying? Like it's love, but I don't know him, you know what I'm saying, anymore in terms of like, I see him once a year, maybe at a award show or a random show, and we say what up. We kick
Tim
it for
Hortons
a few minutes.
just grabbing a coffee.
Tim Hortons doing what we do, you know, saying, you know,
Timmy's.
You know, what's this all about? What's going on?
You don't say what's going on. What's everything all about?
What's going on? How's your roof? Is it okay?
Hey, it's so good to see you here in T.O., eh? How do you feel about the? Well, hold on. Let's wrap up the Drake conversation. The one last thing that I had in my mind about you and Drake, the SNL thing. That did have to seem like an actually really nice. I remember I popped for it because I'm loose talk, super loose talk. But I'm sitting there watching the skit, and I thought Drake was as good.
Well, of course you were sitting there because you weren't at the birthday party that we were at.
Oh, hello. Is this on? Bing, 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 bing. Hello. You wasn't there when Dave Chappelle was there?
Nope. I was sitting on the couch watching SNL live on Saturday night at midnight. Cool. And I was like, wow, this is one of Drake's. It was one of my favorite things Drake did was that SNL. I love that SNL.
Yeah.
And him being the character of being Mr. Canada guy, right?
Yeah, Toronto
and then
guy.
they're like, who's the best rapper? And he's like, obviously Kardinal Offishall. He's won multiple Juno Awards.
That character, yo.
Oh, so good.
That character
is on
is
point.
If you know Canadians for real, like hip-hop Canadians.
Torontonians.
Yeah, Torontonians.
That character is like, because like there's like, I know a lot of people in Toronto that are like Cardi, that are like worldly and kind of like, you know, don't speak like act like they sound like they're from Canada. But there's some dudes that be around Cardi that I'm like,
of course.
Yo, I know what street you're from, yo. Like,
so
the way they talk, Toronto talk is crazy.
But it had to be, that had to be nice, and you had to see that as like a nice little shout out.
You know, it was very, not the shout out was weird. It was weird because I'm at my birthday party with Dave Chappelle, who flew in by himself. So I'm having my own moment.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So people are like, yo, this is lit. I'm like, yeah, Dave Chappelle's here. They're like, what are you talking about? That's amazing too, but not that. I'm like, what are you talking about? And like the shout out literally simultaneously happened at the exact same time.
We were there partying.
Yeah.
And then the tweets and texts start coming in.
And they're like a cross section of like text happening. And I'm like, I wasn't following.
How long did it take to figure out what was going on?
The next day.
The next day when you were like, oh, wow. He just
next day we watched it and we saw what it was. But like people were like, yo, Drake shouted you out. But it wasn't like a shout. It wasn't like he was doing the song. It was a good shout to Cardi. It was like in a sketch.
In a comedy sense. But it was definitely dope because one, like he could have picked random Toronto rapper. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that more time like they put it in the skit was super dope. I don't even think I've seen him since then, like physically, but you know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the day,
it was a talk.
I don't know.
Oh Lord! But at the end of the day,
here's where in a biblical sense.
Here's where I'm gonna. I love the Mr. Roper. Look at this guy.
Stop calling out my Mr. Roper face. All right.
Yeah,
I look for a response.
Looks away.
It's looking for approval.
That's
it's looking for joke approval. So if I know Ciph's gonna like think something's amusing, or I think he will.
Man! But this is amazing. But I'm putting this out into the hip hop ethos because.
Ether. You're not ethos.
Oh, you like ethos better?
Ethos is a thing.
Ethos is a thing. No, ethos.
Well, let me see where I have to go. Oh, hold on. Let me let you finish then. Let me see where you're going to go.
Anyways, doesn't matter. Greek people don't be mad.
Okay.
But I want to wrap it up, Loose Talk, by saying that like this whole Toronto thing, like the one thing that I don't like that's plagued my country and my city is that we have this weird like one at a time mentality. Yeah. So like everything that we spoke about, like it was always somebody, like if chaos was popping, chaos was popping. If Socrates was popping, Socrates was popping. Yeah. Choclair, Cardinal, etc. There's like historically there's not a lot of time when there were a lot of people that were popping at the same time. Like if it's Ghetto Concept, it's Ghetto Concept. You know what I'm saying? If it's Maestro, etc. We have built up the scene so much to where it's like, never mind just like within the genre of hip hop, but just in general, you have everything from Shawn Mendes to Tory Lanez to Alessia Cara to everybody. At the end of the day, I want and my goal has always been for my city to be the #1 city when it comes to music and for people to respect us and realize and understand, you know what I'm saying, what we contribute to the music game. And it's like, even though, you know, now there's still like, you know, this little thing that's going on between Drake and Tory and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's really seriously like my dream to dead all that. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I would love to have a real unified city. Like, I know Atlanta has their issues as well, but just using them as an example, there's so many more Atlanta artists that get together and that's why Atlanta, like to this day,
runs shit.
When you hear hip hop playing down the block anymore, like we were at the Coliseum, they're not running like, you know what I'm saying, like New York classic boom bap shit. They're not. They are running Atlanta music. They're running down south music, and that's what runs the game right now. And it's like at a time where Drake is like arguably the biggest hip-hop artist in the world, it would be so dope if, you know what I'm saying, if him and Tory were good, but that, you know, him, Tory, Party Next Door, Weeknd, all these people were like all kind of just mashing shit together, you know what I'm saying, to where we're like, fuck y'all, we're from Toronto, this is who we are. And I think at the end of the day, eventually it'll happen, especially with the younger generation coming up, because we've changed the way that Torontonians look at themselves.
Which I don't like.
Huh?
What do you mean?
Which I don't like.
What you don't like what?
All right.
You don't want us to get together?
No. Well, no. I want y'all to get together. But all right, here's my deal. Real quick, and then we got to go.
All right.
Toronto was
It was just for you.
Was my haven. It was my desert oasis in the north. Okay? I started going there in 2001. I had a mixtape. We went to Caravana. I gave out the mixtapes. Sean Paul, Give Me the Light was one of the biggest songs on there. That's how I remember it. Standing on Yonge Street, which is equivalent to like,
Broadway, Jace. I mean, it's big.
Whatever. It's the street where like all
Michigan Avenue in Chicago.
Hang out, walk around on Caravana at night, the night before.
Harajuku.
Giving out the mixtapes.
Wild.
I'm standing on the street corner just talking to people. 20 minutes later, all the cars start coming back because they're just looping on Yonge Street looking for chicks and stuff. And every car is playing my mixtape. It was the fucking greatest feeling. And the women in Toronto, no disrespect to my ex-girlfriend, which is what I now call my wife.
That's genius. When did you come up with that?
Yeah, she actually came up with it, and she hates it.
Came up with it?
Yeah, by accident.
You love it.
Now a joke.
You think it's hilarious.
I call my wife my ex-girlfriend. That's what I call her. But it is true. I'm not lying to none of these hoes out here, okay? My ex-girlfriend doesn't want me around you. I don't give a fuck if your ex-girlfriend. Yeah, I agree.
But it's my wife.
That's genius. The women in Toronto, this mix of like
everything.
Trini, Indian, black,
Eritrean,
white,
Ethiopian,
all that
mixed together.
Guyanese,
and reggae
South
music
Asian,
is mainstream music in Toronto,
Vietnamese,
right? So you're in
Congolese.
a club, even if it's like a lot of white girls, reggae music is just part of the main music. So all these white girls with big butts are dancing to reggae. It's fucking amazing.
And now you're saying it's been taken over.
It's been ruined by a couple people. Vince Carter is the first one. Vince Carter brought all his little NBA schlonging motherfuckers around.
No, you're right. You're very right about that.
Mona is one of the problems because She had a lot of
friend. How is she a problem?
Mona's a great friend of mine, but she got a lot of bad chicks around her, and all these basketball players were around. She was like, "Hey, you guys should meet," and all these basketball players started schlonging all my girls in Toronto. Kardinal and Little X ruined it because they were starting to get all these girls to be in these Little X videos. Old Time Killing, for example, and then to set it off from there, and then from then on.
Shouts to Melissa Ford being in the Northern Touch video.
Shout to Melissa Ford.
Yep.
You guys know Melissa Ford drives a Honda Accord.
She should have stayed in Toronto and left it just for my eyes. And Little X.
Shut up, Dreddy. You just God in my bad joke.
Little X started bringing all these chicks down here to be in videos.
This is correct.
Are you still whining about Toronto? I get it. It's
and
not what
then to put the bow on it,
fucking
your man
Drake.
Aubrey
He
ruined it. You ruined the city.
Yep.
Music-wise, bravo, what you did. But exposing, what is it?
It's not your
OVO
cute
Fest.
It's not your cute
OVO
Oasis
Fest.
anymore.
No,
OVO Fest.
Everybody knows about
he
it now.
stole Caravana.
He did. He stole
He
Caravana.
stole it. And now all these fucking Yankee hat Timberland motherfuckers that used to only go to Miami
You're right.
now
Right,
go to
though.
Toronto
Right.
and they go to these bottle
And
popping
they
clubs.
and they fuck all the
They
bitches.
fuck all of them. Fuck LeBron. You
Thank
know what I'm
you.
talking about? Prince knows. Yo, it was our oasis. There was a couple of Americans. There was a couple of DJs.
No, listen, I felt the same way.
A couple of actors that were in shows that
Shout out
filmed
to
in
Riggs.
Toronto.
Riggs is an early Toronto
Riggs
appreciator.
Morales?
Riggs Morales.
So fuck Little X. Fuck Cardi.
Yeah.
Fuck Vince Carter.
Vince Carter.
And Aubrey, fuck you.
That'll do it, ladies and gentlemen, for this
Oh,
great
my
one.
God.
Hey, Cardi, thank you for coming by.
These
Yo.
girls don't even look at me no more.
High
I used
five.
to be a
All
I
right.
used to be a treat. I was an American treat.
Oh, my God. Yo,
That's it.
this was fucking classic, yo.
That's it. I'm ending on I was an
Oh,
I was
my,
an American.
love to all the Juan Eppers. Shout out to Toronto. Yes, go on, big up yourself.
Let me go stop that.
All right.